Hello everyone, my name is Brittany. I go by Britt mostly for those of you guys who are closest to me. You may know that. I'm 33 years old and today I'm going to share the story with you about how I found out I had cancer. I am a metastatic thyroid cancer survivor between stage 2 and 3. I call it 2.5 most of the time because we don't really know. Um, I have already made this video, but it was very, very long, and I knew very little about YouTube at the time. I am concerned, or was concerned, that because the video was so long, a lot of people wouldn't watch it. And even though that video had already had several hundred views, I did delete it from my channel, and I just decided to remake this video so that because it's shorter, a lot more people will see it and relate to it and not just get bored with it. I do know that most of the time if somebody really wants to watch a video, they will, but not everybody has the time to watch like a 40-minute long video, and that's how long it was. It was also extra emotional in some parts, and I feel like now, because I'm more familiar with my illness and more accepting of it, I can speak about it more clearly and just as easily without becoming so emotional. So, if you are one of my regular subscribers and you've already watched most of my videos or heard this story, I completely do not blame you if you want to click out or go away. But for those of you who are new, I still plan to get into the details and the specifics of my diagnosis up to how I am now in hopefully a fraction of that time. So, okay. First, I'm going to start with letting you know, of course, I'm not a doctor. These opinions in this video are mine and just experiences that I've lived with personally. So you may or may not have some of these. Everybody is different. The way we respond to treatment is different. Our cancer cells divide differently. And yeah, so please know that just because I've experienced my cancer this way, you may not. I think you get it. So, well, I was 32, and the year prior, leading up to, I guess that year beforehand, I had noticed that I really had not felt well. I wasn't completely ill all the time, but I noticed that my emotions were extremely roller coaster. I had put on about 10 to 12 pounds that really just came out of nowhere. I thought that it was mostly because of my diet and that I was getting older. And I also had a lot of lower back pain and just some different things. Sorry, where was I? Yes, so I wasn't feeling very well, and I didn't make too much of a thought about it. The last thing in my mind was that I had cancer, so there's no way that that had occurred to me. But I didn't feel well. I didn't really think too much into my symptoms until my mom noticed a lump in my neck and my throat. It was basically right here where you see my little smile, my little hill. It had protruded quite a lot. So I may or may not insert a couple of photos in this video, but my mom had mentioned it before a couple of times, but because I was so healthy, I never thought that I'd have cancer. And thinking about that now, it was very foolish of me to think that because of my family history. And I just kind of brushed it off. But there was a specific day where she really noticed that it was protruding. It was very obvious, and she did look a lot more concerned than usual. So I went and noticed it myself. Now, at that time, I was scared, but I still wasn't thinking that it was a serious illness, and I didn't have very good insurance, so I had really no options other than to kind of wait around and see. I'd spoken to my friend that night who called me serendipitously and asked me to come over. Her husband had an ultrasound machine because he's a doctor, so with his little tablet, he performed just a really minor, easy ultrasound on my neck. He did notice an abnormality, but because thyroid cancer really isn't that common, at least what I have, the kind that I have, I'll get into that later. He really didn't stress that I really needed to go right away, but he mentioned, hey, if this doesn't get better, I would strongly urge you to go to the doctor. But my mom, knowing more about my family history than I did at the time, was much more proactive in making sure that I was seen. So we made an appointment with just the clinic, one of the clinics that I usually had gone to in my area when I had the flu. And I was seen by a PA who was fantastic, who just assumed by looking at me that I had a benign goiter, which is, of course, an endocrine type issue. Usually the nodules in your thyroid are benign. So I was hopeful that they would be able to help me because not only was it, kind of an odd aesthetic thing, it was, it was starting to feel sort of weird. I also was hoping that by getting the treatment or help that I needed, that my symptoms that I was feeling would hopefully go away too. So everything happened really fast. I still was not considering cancer at all. I think my mom was sort of halfway there, but in my mind there was like no effing way. So I did get an ultrasound scheduled by them, a professional ultrasound with really good high-tech reading equipment. And they also referred me to my endocrinologist, who is now my favorite doctor. But because this doctor is so fantastic at what he does, and because he's like known as the best endocrinologist in the area, unfortunately, it was going to take me about 2 months to get in to see him. But after having my ultrasound, if they thought for any reason that I needed to go in sooner, I was told that if it looked serious, that I would be called in. So I went and had my ultrasound, and it was pretty terrifying. I had never really had any procedure done other than wisdom tooth extraction, but this was kind of like the number one step into diagnosing where I was, and I just had a feeling, like as every day got closer, that there was something that was really about to happen, and I was right. So I had my ultrasound done, and, I did not hear from the endocrinologist or anything like that. So my family and I were pretty optimistic that hopefully it didn't look serious and that I would be in the clear. When I went finally to see this doctor, my first visit with him, it was already October. And this had all begun in August. My lump being noticed by my mom, my ultrasound, my doctor's appointments had been 2 months before this first appointment with him. Seeing him, this is all extremely surreal because I swear to you, since this very day, my life has been so different. And so I kind of think of this visit with him as like the beginning of this chapter of my life. And so it's very surreal and crazy thinking about it. It seems like only yesterday, even though it was over a year and a half ago. I saw this doctor who I thought at the time had probably seen my ultrasound results, and I noticed as soon as he walked in and took a look at me after seeing my results on paper that he was concerned. He probably didn't see them, not being his fault or anything like that, but I just don't think that he had been made aware of the issue at hand. And seeing me, seeing how, I'm trying to explain this. You can usually tell just by a photo if somebody's tumor is benign or not. And I do not read ultrasounds, but I've learned a lot now more about CTs, MRIs, scans, and even, sonograms and ultrasounds, that doctors really know what they're seeing when they're looking at it. And he had probably not really seen this before. And after looking at it, he was so concerned by how progressed it already was. He didn't tell me that I needed to have a biopsy. He already had scheduled me for surgery. So going from 0 to 1,000 in my mind, I was like, holy crap, this really is serious. What am I going to do? He referred me to the best thyroidectomy ENT surgeon in my area, who I also love and still see to this day. And it all happened really, really quickly. He, in the best way possible, told me that he was pretty certain I had cancer without actually saying that you have cancer, because legally you're not allowed to give someone that diagnosis unless you have proof. But he's a good doctor, he's a smart man, and he needed me to know how serious it was. So I met with the ENT, and 2 weeks later I was scheduled to have a lobectomy. I think that now my ENT knew as well that what we were looking at was pretty serious and I would probably end up needing a total thyroidectomy, but I was really afraid. And I want you guys to know that thyroid cancer is known for having some really terrible side effects, especially after you've had your surgery. So I had only seen those horror stories. I really was not made aware of anything positive. Had I done more research or not Googled everything, I probably would have known that there are several other people who come out on the end of thyroidectomies much better. And I'm one of those people. So I did not want to have a thyroidectomy. I was terrified. I was in my mind assuming that I'd be able to hopefully keep half and not have to go on any kind of medication, etc. But the day I was scheduled to have my thyroidectomy, we had already discussed that if there was need to take the whole thing out and we had no choice, we would. And that's what happened. He'd seen what it looked like, which was not pretty. It was really scary. He not only had to take out my thyroid, but he had to take out several lymph nodes around the area that also looked suspicious. Now, breaking off into this a little, I do want you guys to know that my thyroid cancer has metastasized into surrounding lymph nodes and tissue, even down below or up closer to my lungs. So unfortunately, I've already had to have 2 surgeries and 2 treatments. I have a different kind of thyroid cancer. And again, I don't want you to think that this is going to happen to you. But because of what I have, it's not always responding. It doesn't respond the same to treatments as most thyroid cancer does. So I do want you to know that it is very, very curable most of the time. And most people who have thyroid cancer go into complete remission. So I don't want you to be afraid that by watching this video, that's going to happen to you, that what happened to me is going to happen to you. But on the positive, I want you to know that since having my thyroidectomy, my health has improved. Yes, I still have cancer cells growing in my body, which isn't fun. I've had to have 2 surgeries, the second one much more major. I've had to have 2 treatments, which were not also pleasant. But positively, I've gone back to my normal weight. I feel so much better. I, yes, do suffer from side effects of not having a thyroid, but overall, my well-being and general quality of life is so much better. So I wanted to record this video being more straightforward, letting you know that since then, I have had a lot of things happen and change in my life, but overall, I'm much more on top of it now. It's my fault that I didn't go into the doctor sooner. I noticed looking back in photos and videos that I had this tumor, whether or not it was benign at the time, for years. It is basically assumed and guessed that I've probably had or did have thyroid cancer for years before having it treated, which is scary to think. So I wanted to make this video a little shorter just to make you all aware that no one is invincible to anything. If cancer runs in your family especially, or if you notice that anything is off in your body, please go. I really want to kick myself for not going to the doctor sooner. I had so many symptoms for so long, especially the lump in my throat, but not even being aware of that. Internally, there was something wrong and I knew it, but because I wasn't advocating for myself, I didn't go in. And I probably or may have been able to tackle this a little sooner, and I might not be where I am now had I gone. So I'm just trying to advocate that if there's anything at all going on in your body, don't just Google it. Don't self-diagnose. I know it's hard not to. People usually go from one end of the spectrum. They're either like me, thinking everything is fine, like I was at first, or automatically assume that you're dying, okay? So all I'm saying is that just please go to the doctor. We are living in an age where medical technology is so advanced. If anybody's going to get anything, now's the time, okay? So I want you to know that, like I said, everybody is different. Thyroid cancer is typically known as an easy cancer, and that pisses me off because it isn't for everyone. It's been absolutely terrible for me, but it has also been really beneficial to my life overall. So I encourage you to watch some of my other videos, not just the negative ones, but most of all, I encourage you to ask your doctor, get research on the topic. If you or a family member has been diagnosed with a thyroid issue or any kind of cancer at all, there are many kind of support groups out there for people with everything nowadays. Medical technology is so advanced. The things that, we can do now, we were not able to do a year ago. I am very anxious about my condition, but a lot less than I probably would be 10 years or so ago because of how far we've advanced. So I just want to leave you with letting you know that nobody really is in control of, your body. And even if you make changes, your body's still going to do what it's going to do, okay? Our cells are going to divide and conquer however they choose. And no matter what your religious beliefs are, yes, it's great to have faith, and mind over matter is so important, and having a positive attitude is so important. But overall, your body's going to do what it's going to do. But what we can control is going to the doctor, getting checked. So I urge you to do that. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I promise to keep you all posted as soon as I know. Hopefully when I see the doctor tomorrow, I'll get good news, and just please feel free to leave me questions in the comments. I do answer a lot of DMs, and I'm happy to help you in any way that I can. Just remember, we're all different. And even though we are all different, still we're fighting this thing together. Thank you guys so much.